This lesson is about the power of forgiveness in enhancing our resilience. So, what is forgiveness? Forgiveness' essence is the conscious decision to let go of the bitterness, the resentment, and the revenge feeling that someone gets when we've been done wrong. Okay. Now, forgiveness is known to get rid of all the negative emotions and foster the positive emotions. It kind of lessen the burden on the brain. Okay, and we will be talking about the neurobiological basis and also the evolutionary need of this phenomenon called forgiveness. There are some brain areas which are involved in forgiveness. One of them is the precuneus, and the other one is the right inferior parietal region. Okay, now these areas are involved in perspective taking, empathy, and self awareness. Okay, now this is all important to re-evaluate the situation from a different point of view. Another area of the brain which is engaged in forgiveness is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Okay, now we know that prefrontal cortex is the executive center of the brain, the decision-making center of the brain, the planning center of the brain. Okay, so this area, the DLPFC, is involved in emotional regulation through cognitive reappraisal. Okay, so in the context of forgiveness, if we have this impulse to take revenge, the DLPFC will try to drum in some sense into us. Okay, and will engage the cognitive faculty or the rationality faculty to prevent us from doing something stupid. The medial prefrontal cortex is also involved in social cognition, okay, particularly in this phenomenon of the theory of mind or try to understand somebody else's point of view. So this is helpful when we engage forgiveness because we can sort of try to understand their context and where they are coming from. Okay, insula is another area of the brain which is engaged in this perception of emotions, our own and someone else. Okay, so when we engage the insula, we try to understand our own emotional reactions and also what the other person is going through. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex play a very interesting role. Okay, it weighs the costs and benefits of a certain action, for example, revenge. Okay, and then through that evaluation, it'll give you a choice that if you engage in this, then these could be the potential negative outcomes for you. So all this points to a very interesting fact that the brain is equipped and geared up for exercising forgiveness because there was an evolutionary requirement or need for it. And this is something I will be talking about. Now let's understand the evolutionary necessity of forgiveness. Okay. Understand an important fact about your brain. Your brain has a strong tendency to focus on a story, particularly the ending of a story is very, very important for the brain. Okay, that's why you watch movies to the end, you watch TV series all the way to the end. Okay, unless and until there is an end, your brain will focus on it. So imagine one of our ancestors walking in savannah and they saw something moving in the bushes. It could be food or it could be threat. They need to find out. the brain will focus on it because this is a critical survival event. Either something is going to eat that individual, or there will be an opportunity for that individual. There's going to be an antelope, or it could be a lion. We don't know the end yet, right? So our ancestor was focused on the bushes. He was constantly looking at the bushes. Now, something came out of the bushes, an antelope or a lion. Now, that episode is over. The new episode starts. It could be go for it or run from it. This is the power behind forgiveness. Okay, the brain will stick to a story until it's finished. So, things done to you in the past, in a relationship context or in professional contexts, and you're still hanging on to them. You're still hanging on to them. Because the brain wants resolution. The brain has a mechanism. Either it wants revenge or it wants forgiveness. Because these two events will finish the story for the brain. So the revenge would be, let's suppose in a professional context, someone, insult you, and you strike back, insult back. Okay, you engage in assertiveness. Okay, something is of legal nature, and you take someone to court. Revenge, done. Okay, you are walking on a high street, and somebody wants to attack you physically, so you engage in physical attack. Revenge is done. However, because we are smart, we engage in damage which operates in the gray area. Okay, so for instance, someone backstab you in the office. What are you going to do? Shout at them? Kill them? Hit them? Take them to court? No, you can't. These are the instances where you will deploy forgiveness. So context matter. Okay? You do need to exercise assertiveness. You do need to exercise your legal right. You do need to exercise your physical capacity if your life is under threat. But then there are situations where you're like, what do I do now? Okay, there are gray areas. And there are the majority of instances where people will do harm to you. Okay. This is where you exercise forgiveness. You finish the story for the brain. You tell your brain that yes, that happened to me. I learned from it. And I will not repeat the same mistake again. I forgive and I forget. And you repeat that again and again and again. And through this process, okay, you weaken the impact of the injury. You lessen the pain of the injury. There's another type of forgiveness that we need to engage for our mental health. Okay, self-forgiveness. Okay, life is tough. Life will throw adversities at us. That's just the way it is. And because of the nature of the two enemies, okay, there will be damage. Now that's when we exercise that kind of forgiveness or revenge when the enemy is external. Okay. But here, the enemy is within. Okay. We made mistakes in the past. We embarrassed ourselves in the past. And now we're constantly thinking about them. We're not forgiving ourselves for those mistakes because we think that we're supposed to be the perfect human beings, that we should never, ever, ever make mistakes. Understand that everyone makes mistakes. Everyone humiliates themselves. Okay? The idea is to learn from those events and to forgive ourselves, have mercy on ourselves, show kindness to ourselves. Okay, that's okay. Things happen. I did that in the past. That was a mistake. I learned from it, and now I will not repeat that mistake again, and I will move on. Okay? When we exercise this kind of forgiveness, it enhances our resilience. Okay? It adds to our happiness. Now, we're not looking backward. We're not engaged in this rumination and depression about what happened to us. Past is past, story is over.